Good morning. I am the Reverend Justine Sullivan. My pronouns are she and her, and I am one of your ministers here along with Reverend Kristen. It is good to be with you. And before I share our chalice lighting words, I want to say thank you for allowing me and encouraging me to go to Minneapolis in answer to the call to be present to what's happening there. I'll accept that applause on behalf of the cold that I endured. No, it was cold, and it was incredibly uplifting, and we'll be talking about this in the days and weeks to come, but I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you for your support, and ask that throughout this day that we hold in our hearts our beloveds in the Twin Cities and beyond. They are so worn down by this siege that they are under. And of course, the latest murder is just devastating beyond words. And so we gather. And I offer these words by the Reverend Michelle Collins, Sacred Descent. Welcome all who are restless for a world renewed. We come carried by ancestors who refused the silence of despair and dared to sing a new song. Their courage whispers through us still. Today, we resist by showing up together. We resist by keeping faith with what is not yet. Our gathering is itself an act of sacred descent, calling us to rise and unite as co-creators of a freer tomorrow. Welcome to worship this morning.
In a spirit of reverence, we acknowledge that we gather on the land of the Kumeyaay. As we light this candle, we affirm our commitment to cultivate meaningful relationships with the people of this land and to work together for justice and equity. Con espíritu de reverencia, reconocemos que nos juntamos en la tierra de los Kumeyaay. Al encender esta vela, reafirmamos nuestro compromiso de cultivar relaciones significativas con los habitantes de la tierra y de trabajar juntos por la justicia y la equidad. Invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in our gathering hymn, number 389, Gathered Here, and 71, Unidos en el Misterio.
And again, I say good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Diego, where we worship each Sunday in the South Bay, here in Hillcrest, and online. Our mission is to create community, nurture spiritual growth, and act on our values to help heal the world. If you are visiting with us today, I extend to you a special welcome, and I invite you to fill out the visitor form in your order of service and return it to the welcome table that's out on the patio. If you are joining us online, you can also fill out a visitor form at the link on the live stream page or in the YouTube service description. We would love to connect with you. And if you've been coming here for a while and are starting to feel like maybe this is your spiritual home, we invite you to consider becoming a member of this beloved community. If you'd like to explore what it means to be a member or have questions about the membership process, you are invited to meet with Jan Garboski, who's right here at the front of the meeting house following the service.
Welcome to this space. Bring all of who you are, in all the beauty of languages, cultures, and skin tones that come together in your uniqueness. You are welcome here, in all the ways you experience and express gender. You are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love. In all the ways you live and move and experience your embodied self. You are welcome here. With all the religious and ethical traditions that inform your spiritual life. You are welcome here. Together, may we live into our shared values with love at the center. It is good to be together. Please rise, embody your spirit, and join in our church hymn and our church aspiration in both English and Spanish.
Good morning, friends. I'd like to invite any of the children or youth who would like to come up and join me for the time for all ages. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So friends, I had a teacher friend back when I taught in Baltimore who used to say at some of our workshops, if you've ever seen a school picture, or maybe if you've been to a conference or a workshop and they took a group photo, she would say, what's the first thing you do when you get that picture? And almost all of us said, well, we look for us. We look for where I am in the picture, right? And that's important. I think it's important to see ourselves reflected either in a group or in the world. And later on in the service, the congregation here is going to think about different archetypes or sort of roles or ideal models of resistance and how they see themselves in those archetypes. And for our time for all ages, we have a story about a young girl named Parker Curry who sees herself reflected for the first time in some art. And it's called Parker Looks Up, an Extraordinary Moment. Parker Curry loved to dance. Dressed in her favorite tutu, she imagined she was a dancing queen. But one rainy Tuesday, instead of going to dance class, Parker's mom said, "Let's go to the museum." Ava, too? Parker loved visiting the museum almost as much as she loved twirling and leaping in the air. She pulled on her boots. Mom and her sister Ava buttoned up their jackets. "Have fun, girls. Bye, Dad." And off they went, splashing and smiling, and surprise! Gia, Parker's best friend, greeted them from the top of the museum steps. "Yay, it's Gia!" Once inside, the friends hurried down a long hall, looking at the paintings all around them. They saw prancing horses, blooming flowers, a bushy mustache, shiny jeweled necklace, 2 peacocks with red eyes, and a basket of slimy fish. Ugh. And feathers, lots and lots of brilliant feathers. "Hurry up, Ava!" Skipping down the hall, the girls spied a row of frilly white tutus. Parker raised her arms. Gia spun around and around and around. "Wait for me," Parker cried, dancing after her friend, until she froze in her tracks, spellbound. Parker Curry looked up. A portrait of First Lady Michelle Obama loomed before her. She had rich brown skin, just like Parker, and kind, familiar eyes that reminded Parker of her mother, her grandmother, her sister, and yes, even herself. How could someone look so real and so magical at the same time? Who is she? Parker's mother's voice filled the air, her words coming to rest squarely on Parker's shoulders. "She is a queen," Parker whispered, unable to look away, to move, to breathe. In that moment, Parker saw more than just a portrait. She saw a road before her with endless possibilities. Suddenly, Parker felt a small hand in hers, and the spell was broken. "Come look, Ava," she said, putting her arm around her little sister and standing tall. For Parker Curry was feeling powerful and strong, and even though she hadn't moved, inside she was dancing. The end. Thanks, friends. Just as a side note, that this book was written by Parker Curry and her mom, Jessica. So this is based on an actual story that happened when they visited the museum. So friends, I hope you see yourself reflected here in our congregation. And I hope that when we look at our children and youth, we see ourselves reflected in them too, partly as our future. So friends, I hope that you'll help me. We're going to stand up. Those of us up here are going to stand up, and we'll help lead the congregation in our affirmation. We'll say it first in English and then in Spanish. We are Unitarian Universalists, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands. Somos unitarios, universalistas, personas de mentes abiertas, corazones amorosos y manos que dan la bienvenida. And now I invite any children or youth who would like to join me and their other leaders out on the patio. We'll head to our groups. Hi, friends. As I hope you already know, we are going to have a congregational meeting on Sunday, February 8th at 11:30 here at Hillcrest, at which we will decide as a congregation whether or not to call Reverend Kristen as a settled minister here at First UU. So, according to our bylaws, to make that level of decision, we need a quorum of 35% of the voting members present. In our case, that means 144 people, voting members, need to be either present live in the room or live online in order to make that decision. So, over the next couple weeks, you are likely to receive several invitations encouraging you to be present because we want to make sure we have that minimum number of people, that 144 voting members present, in order to make that decision. And so I would like to offer you a little bit of a different kind of invitation. Rather than thinking of 144 as the minimum number we need to make that decision, I want to think about what it would feel like if everybody who could vote showed up on that day. Imagine sitting in the meeting house with 350, 400 or so people committed as a community to journeying spiritually together, to making important decisions democratically together. Think of the joy of that experience. And so rather than thinking of that number as a minimum we need to get to, I want to think of it as a joyful experience, an opportunity to celebrate, an opportunity to just be together in joy. So I hope you will join me on February 8th at 11:30 here at Hillcrest in a spirit of joy and commitment and community to make decisions together and journey toward becoming a beloved community.
So what do we want on February 8th? Everybody. Oh, you didn't say quorum. You said everybody. You are so smart. Lay ministers are available after the service to offer a listening presence if you have a joy or sorrow that you would like to share. And this morning, our lay minister is Elise Ford. She's there wearing the yellow scarf. For those online, it will be helpful during this morning's service to have a piece of paper and something to write with for later on during the service. So this is your reminder to grab something to write on and with. Later this morning after worship, we have a congregational meeting today. This is an update from our Sustainable Future team, a conversation not to be missed. 11:30 here in the meeting house and online. Taking action for all that is sacred today at 4 o'clock, starting at Cesar Chavez Park. That's in El Barrio Logan. Faith-led procession in response to growing ICE activity in our communities and growing fear for our families. There's more information available at the SJET table on the patio. I will be there. Please join me. It will be good to be together.
Good morning. I'm Liz Jones. I go by she and her, and I am a member of the Philippine Partner Church Group. One of the ways that we live our Unitarian Universalist values is by sharing our weekly offering with a nonprofit organization that shares our values. In the month of January, we support organizations within the Unitarian Universalist movement. The generosity offering this morning is going to our partner congregation in the Philippines. We've had a formal partnership with the congregation in Malingan on the island of Negros for over 16 years. This Sunday and each year on the fourth Sunday of January, they celebrate our partnership. So we have a commitment to supporting the elementary and high school students of the congregation with funds to help them so they can buy uniforms, school supplies, and other necessary items. The past few years have been very difficult in this rural farming community. Over the past year, they have had several typhoons that have brought high winds and excessive rains. They have faced crop loss and extensive damage to their homes. Your generosity will greatly help these families and the community. You can give through text to give at 619-333-3040, or you can donate this morning by giving cash or check in the boxes at the back of the meeting house, or online at our church website at firstuusandiego.org. Thank you so much for your generosity. The offering will now be gratefully received.
So we mentioned that online you need a paper and a pen, and for this part of the service, you'll have an insert in your order of service that looks like this, titled Archetypes of Resistance. If you don't have one, you can ask an usher by raising your hand, or also if you don't have access to a pen or pencil, our ushers can bring one around. So today we're exploring the theme of practicing resistance. Sometimes we have a hard time seeing a place for ourselves in the work of justice making. The roles that get most lifted up are those of courageous frontline activist, dynamic organizer, and charismatic spokesperson. Now, don't get me wrong, those roles are essential. But for many of us, our skills, gifts, and passion are different, making it hard for us to figure out how we can contribute in this moment. So this is why Satya Doyle Biak, a psychotherapist and author, created a list of the 20 archetypes of resistance. Her intended goal was to widen our imagination and enable us to more easily see a place for ourselves in the movement. So Soon, we have some readers who will be coming up, and you're going to be hearing about these different archetypes. While you are, I invite you, if you hear something that really resonates, or just like the little girl in our story, if you look up and you're like, that is me, I see myself in that, this resonates, circle it or put a star next to it. I imagine that each of us might have 2 or 3 that call to us. So I invite up our first readers.
The healer, whether offering therapy to people in need, serving on the front lines as a medic, providing abortions to women in dangerous locations, or defending our public health. The healer protects us in body and spirit, bringing their skills and training to help ease suffering and ensure survival.
The musician. The musician may help us process emotions and celebrate or lift the spirits of a neighborhood amid devastation when all else seems to be lost. Or they translate the pain into something we all need to hear and create a rallying cry to motivate change. The musician helps to remind us of life beyond grief and human creativity in the worst of times.
The cook. Without physical and spiritual nourishment, we all wither. The cook is a person in the community at any scale, in a refugee camp, a restaurant, a church basement, or a home, providing food to sustain bodies and beings. The cook also knows that alongside a shared meal is community and connection.
The neighbor. Sometimes the most important role in any of our lives is that of the neighbor, a person who helps to hold the community together and is available to offer a cup of tea, an ear, a meal, or even a bed in times of need. The neighbor is often an underappreciated hero, but one who is remembered deeply in the hearts of the people that they touch.
The observer. Systematic change rarely happens quickly, and it takes incredible courage to observe suffering and share it with others so that it doesn't happen in the dark. The observer brings to bear their capacity for presence by witnessing what is unfolding and recording it for the rest of us. In this role, they serve to document events and lives for the present and for the future.
The civil servant. While democracy is under attack, some of the most courageous people are those on the front lines of politics day after day, speaking truth to power, and working hard to defend our institutions even in the most dire of circumstances. Not only do they protect what laws and services they can, they also offer hopeful reminders of leadership and courage for all of us.
The orator. In dark times, we all need inspiration and guidance. Countless great speeches throughout history have offered us a light toward which to walk and much needed hope in humanity when all feels lost. Orators provide clarity for the mission and encouragement in the work.
The benefactor. All movements require money and reliable financial support. Sometimes that money comes in the form of crowdfunding, and sometimes it comes from very wealthy donors who are aligned with the cause, even placing themselves at risk to get resources where they need to go.
The keeper of law. At their best, the structures of justice exist to protect the most vulnerable among us. People who protect the law in times of resistance exist at every level of the system, from those defending voting rights to courageous judges standing up to unconstitutional rulings, to lawyers defending immigrants and law clerks laboring in the background.
The prophet. Often one who can tell the future is gathering information from what is right in front of all of us, putting the pieces together that the rest of us can't see. Because they so often think differently, we tend to think that they're out of touch until the final moment when we realize that they were right all along. The prophet is always watching out for the rest of us, protecting things for the future.
The wisdom keeper. While so much is being destroyed, it's critical that whatever wisdom and culture can be protected, be protected. The wisdom keeper protects our books, languages, and cultural treasures for the future. The wisdom keeper may work as a librarian, archivist, or oral storyteller. They are the sages sharing the highest lessons with those who can receive them.
The leader. When you're lost in the woods, it is a great comfort to know that someone up ahead has a flashlight and a compass and feels comfortable being in the lead. A true leader is not invested in leadership for the sake of fame or prestige. They take on the role because they're able to orient towards integrity and morality in the scariest of times and model that orientation for the rest of us. The danger for all of us is expecting them to be perfect. The best leaders are humans alongside us.
The writer. On every level, communication is critical in times of resistance, whether to convey facts and information or inspire through poetry and storytelling. The writer shares the news as clearly and factually as possible, provides inspiration to keep the people's souls afloat, and distributes needed intel. They help us stay oriented to reality, as well as to the deeper callings at the root of change.
The defender. Not all protectors carry weapons, but some certainly do. The defender may be a soldier or an officer protecting our institutions and communities in some of the scariest moments, possibly putting their life on the line. They can be our saviors when the side we're up against has all the weapons. The danger is in knowing when to put the guns back down.
The seed keeper. Some people are oriented to fighting back in the moment, and others are thinking far into the future, anticipating what will be destroyed and protecting what needs to be protected. The seed keeper may be saving actual seeds for future harvest, or they may be acting like seeds themselves, going deep underground or away from society to protect knowledge, artifacts, or life for another time.
The code maker. When communication becomes dangerous and public information networks can't be trusted, Resistance movements need people who can communicate without the risk of being heard. This may mean hand signals, Morse code, or spoken language that very few people know. It may also mean mastery of digital spaces that can't be hacked. Code makers help protect lives and resources by passing information along that cannot be easily known by others outside.
The artist helps us to see things we cannot otherwise see and face things we cannot otherwise face. They help to metabolize the pain in the world and turn it into beauty, or use art to protest in ways that marching alone cannot do. The artist may work in a medium, but uses their work to serve the soul, transform grief, and create in the face of destruction.
The organizer. Even when we're ready to dive in, not all of us are equipped to gather the community together to get to work. The organizer is skilled at knowing what needs to get done, is tapped into the networks of care and support, and helps us get educated and well organized. They are advocates working on the ground in our neighborhoods, or they're heading up organizations to provide needs institutionally.
The underground guide. Much of the labor in resistance movements is invisible by default, but its lack of visibility doesn't reflect its level of importance. Being an underground guide means protecting vulnerable people, creatures, and resources from danger without ever being known or seen. Underground guides need to build networks, knowing who they can trust and how to communicate to keep people safe and connected to the resources they need.
The soul tender. Every movement needs places for soul tending, gathering spaces that help to replenish the sense of depletion and hopelessness, with leaders to remind us of our integrity and the larger story of creation and destruction unfolding over time. The soul tender may be a religious leader or secular guide who isn't afraid to tap into the spiritual and non-rational spaces to convey hope without losing connection to the here and the now. As we let these archetypes settle in, we're going to invite you to join us now to sing a meditation hymn, number 1009, Meditation on Breathing. We'll stay seated.
This hymn has 3 sections, so we'll go through each one, and you can keep going with me or stick to one and sing that the whole time. We'll start with breathing.
Invite us to continue in that spirit, breathing in and breathing out. Taking a moment just to settle and to center. Breathing in peace, breathing out love, peace, love. On the in-breath, peace. On the out-breath, love. Continuing at your own rhythm for a few moments more. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Blessed be. This morning, I finally get to say to you, I am so excited about the possibility of serving as one of your called and settled ministers. The opportunity to build a shared ministry rooted in mutual commitment fills me with so much joy because I love who we are as a church and I love who we are becoming together. Some of you may know that my journey with this congregation started in 2009, over 16 years ago. I was a young adult and I was yearning for meaningful work that would bring together my two passions of spiritual practice and social justice. That calling was answered when I was hired as our first social justice coordinator. You welcomed me as a labor organizer and a Zen Buddhist, a not yet Unitarian Universalist, and it felt like coming home. Coming home to a community of shared values where we could learn together and grow together and take action in our community. Just a few years later, I also became our South Bay coordinator, helping to nurture our bilingual multicultural campus on the border. It was here, in this church, that I fell in love with Unitarian Universalism and first became a member. And it was here that I heard the call to ministry and answered it. In 2016, I left my position at the church to complete seminary and to do my internship. I then served my first congregation as an ordained minister, the Saltwater Unitarian Universalist Church in Des Moines, Washington. Over the 5 years I served as a solo settled minister, I grew in my skills and got clarity on my calling. Just about 2.5 years ago, you invited me into a new relationship with this congregation to serve as your assistant minister. And I said an enthusiastic yes. I said yes because I felt this deep alignment between the ministry that you were seeking and the gifts that I had to offer. I said yes because San Diego is my home, the place I feel rooted in relationship to community and to the land. And I said yes because I wanted to be part of the healing and thriving of this congregation. Over the past 2 years, that yes has only deepened. I am here again at the threshold of a new possible relationship to our church, and I am overflowing with gratitude. This morning, I asked you to consider how you might authentically show up in this critical time to be part of the movement for justice and equity. And we started a process of exploring these archetypes of resistance, that some of us might be the cook or the neighbor, the healer or the prophet, while others are the leader or the organizer, the musician or the seed keeper. No one archetype more needed than the others, no one more powerful than the others. Just different gifts that we bring to help build a community where all of us can thrive. So I've been thinking about in this time of discernment how I'm called to show up. What are the unique gifts that I bring to help make our communities more whole? First, I am a soul tender. I discovered the call to soul tending first for myself. I yearned for healing from some of the difficulties of my early years, and I found nourishment in practices like meditation and yoga, time in nature, and the practice of counsel. As I began to tend to my own soul, I felt drawn to facilitating those kind of spaces for others. Spaces where people could encounter healing and gain insight and perhaps even engage and connect with the sacred, feel the presence of the spirit of life and love. I honed my skills as a soul tender when I trained as a chaplain resident at Sharp Memorial Hospital. I spent a year being present to the suffering of others, learning how to listen, to ask open questions, and to help people connect with their own inner wisdom and wholeness. It was a challenging and transformative part of my journey, learning to be present in the trauma room, at the bedside while someone was dying, when a beloved was having a mental health crisis, or in the home as someone was recovering from a medical incident. But it's also where I learned that presence matters, that to show up for one another in times of suffering can be healing in itself, that to know we are not alone can make the most challenging moments just a little bit more bearable. I love that I get to bring this experience as a chaplain into this work with our lay ministers. Together, we help to create a community of care here at First UU. We accompany one another when we navigate a sudden diagnosis, the end of a relationship, the death of a beloved, or the ways that injustice is impacting us and our families. In this time of violence and devastation in our communities and nation, it feels like all of us could use some tending to our souls. I am also an organizer. I first felt the stirring and lure into justice work when I was a teenager. I grew up in a working class family, and I was the first generation to go to college. It was there that I began to understand the way that oppression and injustice operates, and it was devastating, but it also called me into this new sense of purpose. I found my place in the movement in New York City shortly after 9/11, organizing with Students for Peace and Nonviolence. That work then led me to the labor movement, working with unions to negotiate for rights in the workplace, living wages, access to healthcare, and for immigration reform. Over the past 25 years of organizing, I've worked on countless issues. But what I've come to learn is that the root of all movements are relationships. When we form relationships, when we hear one another's stories, we cultivate empathy and compassion. We know in an embodied way that our fate is bound up together. And from those relationships, we build power, we dream together, and we mobilize towards a vision of beloved community. On Thursday, I joined our community partners, Alliance San Diego and the San Diego Immigrants' Rights Consortium, as well as local labor unions, at a protest at the federal building demanding ICE out of San Diego. I was asked to speak as a faith leader about the importance of human rights and the call of people of conscience to act with moral courage in this time. It was moving to be part of this action, especially as Reverend Justine and over 1,000 faith leaders responded to a call to Minneapolis. They were there to support communities being occupied by ICE and Border Patrol, offering faithful witness and solidarity. These moments affirm for me the powerful role that faith leaders are playing in this time, in this moment in our movements. Now is a time when the pastoral and the prophetic, the soul tender and the organizer are not separate, but mutually reinforcing. And I am also an artist. I first came to art as a writer and a storyteller. In college, I discovered the mediums of collaging and bookmaking and printmaking. And recently, I rediscovered the joy of dance, of moving and making music with my feet. There's some part of me that has a fundamental need to create in order to be whole. Making art reminds me that although humans are capable of unimaginable destruction and harm, we're also capable of creation. We're capable of beauty. We're capable of reweaving the tapestry of human connection. Creativity sustains me. It gives me a way to express all the things that can't be spoken with words, and it reminds me that the story is still being written, and we are co-creators of it. In my ministry, I have the amazing opportunity to create worship every week, to weave together story and song and ritual meditation, readings and reflection into a piece of living, breathing art. So this is my unique constellation of gifts. I am a soul tender, an organizer, and an artist. You also have a unique set of gifts, and I want to invite you in this time to bring them forward more fully, because we need every single one of your gifts. As I've been exploring these archetypes, I realize that these gifts aren't just what builds a movement for justice, but these are the gifts that build a church, that create a shared ministry. Every single one of them is needed, and together they each bring a piece of the mosaic to make something beautiful. How can you show up in all of your authenticity to co-create something that matters? Because I believe that our church matters now more than ever. A place centered on love, grounded in now seemingly countercultural values of things like interdependence and generosity, pluralism and justice, equity and transformation. And a place where we don't just name those values, but we hold them dear and we claim them and we live them. A place where we are strengthened and supported by being in the struggle together. As we close, I want to share a brief story with you. Between Christmas and New Year's, our family, Josh, my husband, Lucas, my child, and myself, we headed out on an adventure. We drove up into the mountains of Julian and then down into the Anza Borrego Desert. When we arrived, the rangers told us that because of the rain, there were wildflowers in Henderson Canyon Road, an unexpected off-season gift. So we drove through the desert roads flanked with giant metal statues of dragons and caterpillars and grasshoppers and scorpions and horses. And when we arrived, the field was filled with yellow, white, and purple blooms, offset by green leaves and blue sky and brown earth. It was breathtaking. Since it was off season, there were very few people there, and Josh and Lucas ran ahead because they saw Coyote Mountain in the distance and they wanted to see if they could reach it. And so there I was alone, wandering slowly, drinking in all the colors and textures. And at some point, I kneeled down on the earth and I began to weep. I heard in my mind a line from a poem that I shared with you in December during our Lady of Guadalupe service. May we gather the flowers so improbably blooming in winter and shower them on a weary world hungry for hope. This was my sign of the miracle. I wept because that something this beautiful could exist in this time. Something temporary and fragile, but also miraculous. I wept because of how fragile everything felt, but that I also simultaneously felt filled up. When I look back at the pictures, which you can see on your screen, I realize that what makes the desert in bloom so moving is not the beauty of any one individual flower. It's how they come together. And I thought about us, about our community, and all the different people that are part of it, and all the unique gifts that you bring. Each of you is singularly amazing, but there's something even more powerful that we create together. May we each offer our gifts that are so needed in this moment to the church and to the movement for justice. And may we be blessed in this shared ministry. Amen.
invited to rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, When the Spirit Says Do.
May we answer the call of the Spirit to bring our gifts into community, into the movement, to build a world of love and justice and equity. May we do it together. Blessed be.
Amen.